Hi everyone, welcome to Organian's Puzzle Box. I'm glad you're here because today we've got a special tutorial tackling a major change in Unreal Engine 5.5. The shift from ORD, which is Occlusion, Roughness and Displacement textures, to ORM, Occlusion, Roughness and Metallic. If you've been working with Unreal Engine for a while, you might have noticed that Epic has changed the way textures are structured, moving away from displacement maps and prioritizing metallic instead. This is an industry shift, but it comes with some problems. I mean, this has happened in many other DCCs. Many assets simply don't need a metallic map, while displacement was still widely used for different purposes. Now, to make things even trickier, ambient occlusion is disabled by default in Unreal Engine 5.5 or other Unreal Engine 5 versions due to Lumen taking over as the physically accurate lighting solution. This means that even if you plug an AO map into your shader, it won't show up unless you manually enable it in the project settings. And while Lumen is great, AO still has its uses, especially when it comes to enhancing details or using it creatively in shaders. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to properly repack and merge texture maps using the new texture graph, which is exclusively to Unreal Engine 5.5. This tool gives you full control over how your textures are formatted, letting you restructure them to suit your needs instead of being locked into Epic's new default setup. Now let's say you have a scene in Unreal Engine and you would like to have a displacement map used for your landscape in order to get this kind of detail onto it, right? But with the current format of textures on Fab, you're not able to download this particular texture set directly as you used to be able to do for Quixel Bridge, for example. If you go on Fab, and let's say we have a look at this texture, which is from Quixel, this one in particular, you want to download the texture set, but you only have these options here from the launcher inside Unreal Engine. When you go in here, you'd probably click on raw quality, you want the best quality, let's say, and you're going to click the add to project. And if you go back into your project over here, you'll be able to find Megascan assets. So you should just be able to look through here to see where they would have been added in. And generally, this is quite a problem because, again, you don't really know where they've been added. But you got to wait for the imports to be done. Once it is done, the launcher should automatically open it for you. You generally will be taken to a folder called Fab, Megascan Surfaces, and then you have it in here in the raw format. And when you look here, we've received a texture set, ORM, a normal, and a base color. Now these have been imported as virtual texture because I have the virtual textures enabled in the project settings, but you can easily right-click them and convert to regular textures if that's the case, and then just press OK, and Unreal Engine will do that for you. But now, you're noticing that we have an ORM map, and ORM will stand for Occlusion, Roughness, and Metallic. There is no displacement map in here, okay? So one thing that you could have a look in here is, well, actually, I want my displacement map. So I'm going to click on, view in my, sorry, if I click view on my library, it's not going to take me anywhere. I actually need to, go back to that. Well, I can find that asset going straight online. So here I am on Fab, and I've got the asset, as I said, saved to my library, so I can actually download it from here. And what you'll notice when you click the download button, it will ask you what sort of format you want. We can actually get the texture set, which is, either a 4K, 8K, or 2K, or we can get other formats as well. The thing is, Unreal Engine has not actually given me this particular texture set. It's given me a packed set, and it's given me the Occlusion, Roughness, and Metallic. So I can actually go in here and let's say, for example, download the 4K, right? And if I do that, I'm going to get an archive that I can download whatever I want to. Let me just put it in this particular, I can put it in here, for example, and just save it very quickly so I can show you. And if I go back into the folder and actually extract this file, so extract here, and I have a look inside the folder, you'll notice now that there's a lot of maps in here, including base color, ambient occlusion. We've got a displacement map, we've got a normal map, we've got roughness. So there's a lot of maps in here that weren't actually in the original format when we brought them to Unreal Engine. Why is this important? Well, actually, using these maps, you're not going to be able to get any kind of displacement going on, at least not the right one. You might be tempted to use the roughness map for that. If you actually double click the ORM map in here, you'll be able to see that there are different maps on each channel. So on the R channel, we have the occlusion. On the green channel, we have roughness, and on the blue channel, we have metallic, which is completely black because this stone wall has no metallic whatsoever. So normally in the B channel, we would have had displacement, but we can't see that here. Okay, so what we can do now is we can bring those textures in and then we can start using them. Now, we're going to bring up those textures. What I want to bring is I want to bring the ambient occlusion. I'm not going to bring the base color in the normal because we already have those, but I'm going to, as I said, bring the ambient occlusion. I'm going to bring the displacement and the roughness. Okay, these are the textures that I actually want to bring in. I'm going to drag them in here, and Unreal Engine will get them in. Obviously, it's brought them in as virtual textures. I'm going to convert these to regular textures. And when you look at it now, we've got 3 maps plus a base color plus a normal. And if we actually open a material sample here and we go into a hierarchy and the material shader, what we'll notice is that obviously we have Quixel here coming with its own setup. But if we delete this very quickly just to run with our own basic setup, you'd have the base color, you'd have the normal, and then you'd also have the ORM here. And the way that these would normally be plugged in, it would be base color, this would be in a normal, the R channel would be in ambient occlusion, the green channel would be in roughness, and then the B channel would be in metallic. This is basically what they would be doing, and I'm pretty sure that's what's being done here to the left side as well anyway, but we're just doing a very basic setup. Now, if we want to have the displacement again, we can go in here, obviously this is Unreal Engine 5.5, we can actually enable tessellation, which allows us to use displacement, but there's nothing to plug in it. So you might be tempted to say, well, actually, we downloaded the displacement map now. We're just going to drag that in there, and now we can connect this like that. But now you're effectively using a 4th texture to do this. This is eating up memory, and you already know there's nothing plugged in metallic. I mean, the metallic channel is empty there. It doesn't really do anything, right? So this is where the setup of a texture graph comes into play, where you can actually start merging some of these textures in a way that you might want to. So in order for us to completely pack our textures, we're going to go over here into this folder, right click, and we're going to go to texture. And in here, we can actually click on texture graph. Now, I'm going to call this TG, test, right? But if for some reason you can't see texture graph in your file, you can go to edit, go over to plugins and type in texture graph, okay? And then you should have this ticked on in here. And if you don't, obviously tick it off and restart the engine. Once you've done that, once you've got a texture graph in here, you can double click it, okay? And this will open a new editor. And in this editor, we can actually bring all of our textures that we want to work with. So we want the displacement, the ambient occlusion, and we also want the roughness, okay? Now, we don't care about the base color and the normal in this particular case. All we care about is these 3 textures. So we want to now combine them into one texture. So we can actually type in combine channels. We can put the ambient occlusion in the red channel, and we can put the as I said, this roughness into the green channel, and then displacement can go into the blue channel. Bear in mind, you also have an alpha channel, so you can actually add something else in there. So what I mean by this is, if let's say you had a metallic, you could actually have the metallic in the alpha channel, or you can have, better yet, the displacement could go in the alpha channel, okay? Once you've done this, you can actually connect it over here into the output, and when you actually click on export, it will ask you if you want to export this channel and where, and generally what you want to name it as well, right? In this particular case, using the file name here won't really do anything when you click export, if I remember correctly. So you can just rename it after you export it anyway. Now, another thing that you can do with this is you can do reconfigurations. Like you can have the ORM channel here, right? This is the one that's got 3 textures already in it. And you can look for split channels. So if you feed this into here, you can actually split those channels, the RGB and alpha, to whatever else you want. So again, this could be like this. You see what I'm doing there? I'm taking the red channel from here and putting it into the green channel of a new texture. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this. This is obviously a tutorial about conversion. The texture graph can do other things, not just this particular thing. Obviously, if you look here for filters, warps, and all sorts of things, it allows you to effectively edit textures inside Unreal Engine instead of having to go to a different software to do this. Okay, now let's go forward to the extraction process. So when I press the export button, it will ask me, what's the output to export? And that's it. And we're going to click export. Then if we go back in here, we can see that the output is created. I'm just going to put this TG, right, output, just so we know what we're looking at. Let me just put this right. And then I'm going to double click it. Sorry, I've opened something else. I'm going to double click the output. And when I do, if I shut down RGB, you'll notice that on the red channel, we have our ambient occlusion. On our green channel, we have whatever roughness is in there. It's very subtle. You can barely see it. And then in the B channel, we have our displacement. Now, obviously, this is not the best texture for me to show you this because I don't think the displacement map of this particular project was any good. We can see it directly, actually. So if we double click on the displacement, you can see that it already looked like this when we did get it off Fab. So I wouldn't really recommend using this displacement map or this particular texture set for our work. But I had a bunch of textures here that have had the same issue. If you look here, we had coral beach, beach sand, beach pebbles, cliff. All of these are mega scans, and each of them had this texture set that came up. You can see the displacement map in there, right? So I need to use the texture graph workflow in order to get my displacement to work as you're seeing in this particular scene. And this is some really beautiful displacement as well. It's really well done, really well blended. And the only way that I could have done it was to use a texture graph to merge those textures inside Unreal. Obviously, you can merge textures in other software, but this is how you do it for Unreal Engine. Just a quick plug, guys. If you like the assets that you're seeing on screen, these plants, the World Forge landscape, the Roman architecture, just head on over to my Fab Marketplace or ArtStation or Gumroad, where you will find all these projects available for you. This Corinthian Roman package has been just recently added, and the World Forge is making its way to the Fab Marketplace, but it is currently available on Gumroad and ArtStation. Pretty much everything you're seeing here is part of the package, right? The Roman, obviously the Roman modular kit is its own package, but the World Forge, the Atmos Forge, and these plants here are all part of one package available to you straight away. If you want to get it, it has full support for RVT, full support for basically nanite foliage, and also fully displaced landscape. So I hope you'll take a look. Now, obviously, with a new texture, we can just go in here and drag it in. And we now have 3 different outputs, and each of these can take the place of what we've just exported. So this can go into the ambient occlusion, this can go into roughness, and the other one can go into displacement, sorry. And now we can obviously delete this particular one, delete this one, and this is what we've got. And again, we've now reduced ourselves back to 3 textures, which is what we really wanted, because again, we're saving memory this way. We're not actually trying to add more work for the system to do. We're trying to add less. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to check out this tutorial. If you found it useful and you want to support the channel, you can check out my content on Patreon, Fab, ArtStation, Gumroad, and also my personal website, which is 3dprojectmasters.com. There you'll find free and premium content that helps keep this platform going. Now, a huge thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these tutorials possible. I truly appreciate your support. That's it for today. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Keep creating.